Well, Mr. Aristo, it's a good afternoon to you.
And good morning to you.
Okay,
7:55.
we've just been having a little bit of talk about some of the energies that are swirling around on the planet, and I imagine you will pick up and go from there on some of the things that you're perceiving and feeling. And I'm just going to let you take it away.
All right, here we go. Um, in the past two videos, I talked about the necessity of healing the emotional body. And many people, online and off, whatever, write books about things like that and give techniques and stuff like that. The bottom line is that we are human beings and we can consider ourselves an animal species, even though we are a different kind in our own mind, so to speak, a different kind of species, a different image and likeness of the divine and all of that. However, biologically, we can benefit from some of the perks of being an animal species. One of these is to understand what our instincts are. Now, animals don't have to do that, they just do it. But because we're a clever species and different from the animal species, we can actually have the option of short-circuiting our own instincts generationally. If our ancestors had the matrix, for example, short-circuited their instincts, the same thing will happen to us. And we can experience generationally chronic illnesses like cancer, an upsurge of viruses that never existed before, all kinds of things, because we are betraying our grounded nature. And it's funny because our grounded nature is usually associated with bestial so-called instincts, whereas we don't understand that every species has its own set of specialized instincts. Our intellect is one of our biological specialties. Our ability to speak and communicate with options of the written word, because we understand symbolism. This comes from a neurological dynamic. It's genetic, and hence it has instinctive roots. We don't have Father and Mother E.T. come down and teach us how to talk. We learn it as we go, even if we don't have any example, because our instincts require a trigger. We usually say, no, we will moan and mumble, and over time, if you isolate a group of humans, because humans are a social species, they may develop their own unique language, and probably fairly quickly. If you isolate one human, then it will be dysfunctional. It will be deranged. But the same thing happens with all animals that are communal. You take a dog and you stick it in a dark room, it goes insane from a puppy. Any kind of herd animal like that will be mentally ill or generally ill and will die. Animals die in captivity. They have the instinct to be free. Freedom is not a human attribute. It is an attribute of our instinctive nature. Our instinctive nature is God-given. It is not a set of programs only. You might say, well, it's the difference between what we consider programs and artificial intelligence. It's not artificial, though. It's the intelligence of the great mother, who is matter, in combination with as much spirit as she could absorb materially, which is very little. Notice this. The biosphere is full of predator-prey relationships. It's full of symbiosis, it's full of harmony, but there is a lot of eat and be eaten. So imagine being a little being that's running around and you're being chased by predators, but you have an awareness of the divine, so you're saying, what kind of God would do this? What kind of course, humans who aren't involved and can stand back, well, we have our domesticated animals, we slaughter them, we have to eat, so we don't question it. But if you're in the thick of it, then you will rail against creation for that having to happen. And maybe animals in their own way do that. However, instincts may intervene and make the situation a lot less painful than we think it is. Human sadism and artifice notwithstanding. In any case, often human death is like that. There is a point where animals choose to die, humans may choose to die, and they don't even realize it. Now, what you have with psychopathy is an artificial hacking, not just of our higher minds and our human nature, but of our instinctive nature. This is where the matrix has its roots. the power core of the perception of the matrix is not in the higher mind. It is in the instinctive nature. I mean, they threaten us with survival. They terrorize us. All of these are reptilian brain things. They don't even hit. They use the carrot of false love, of false solidarity, of false hope. All of these are mammalian zones. Emotions are being repressed in one way and stimulated another. So I believe that the spirituality of rejecting our instincts is part of the matrix. It's similar to the spirituality that the world is an illusion. It is part of the matrix. Priesthoods have created it because it suited them, in my honest opinion. And then, of course, once you get a false piece of propaganda rolling, a bunch of sincere people with their own motives actually end up clicking to it, hooking onto it, and becoming its mouthpieces without even being part of the so-called conspiracy. That's why it gets so confusing. You have as many sincere people out there spouting bullshit with more passion than any fanatic on the payroll politician, than you actually have the people who write the stuff up. So my thing is pragmatic. I mean, we can turn to religion. We can say, let's all go out in the streets and everything. I'm saying, yes, whatever creative thing moves you, run with it. Think it through and run with it. My little piece of input here in these talks is, well, one thing I know I have is me. So I know I have me, and I know I still want to do things. And I know I still have compassion. I still think freely, whatever. So at least I got me on my side. Do I? Do I? At least I got part of me on my side. So perhaps I need to get all of me on my side first. And maybe I'll notice there's more to me than meets the eye. And this is where the so-called abilities come from. And then I might even consider what it means to have negativity rebound on the person shooting it at. Because there is the negativity that is my ancestral denial. The denial of instincts that I didn't ever know I even denied because my forefathers denied them, and I just got the sins of the fathers, they say. There is a little bit of truth to that, If your forefathers have gotten into a certain matrix established habit, and you take it for granted. So but it's your responsibility to turn it around because there's nobody else. However, you didn't cause it. So you can't, so you may say, well, I didn't do this. It's not my fault. Why should I deal with it? No, because there's nobody else. That's the simple answer. I mean, you don't say I chose this or whatever. You're here now. And if you want to find a reason, maybe there's a reason. Bottom line is, if you want to change it, right now, it's far more pragmatic to change the one thing you can, as opposed to bitch about all the things that are not, that you don't feel you can. So anybody who wants to change somebody else can look to be the change they want to see first in themselves. And if they are impatient with themselves, then how much more patient should they be with everybody else? And if we don't have enough time, well, that's the clincher. See, who's telling us we don't have enough time? The media. Everybody flipping out. You can notice anybody who's telling us we don't have enough time, it's not it's not a declaration of wisdom or discernment. It's a declaration of fear and panic. You see, when somebody tells you something, if it's really, really a declaration of love and wisdom, and you say, okay, but if it's a declaration of panic, and you're in an environment of those who want to make you panic because they're afraid of you. I said it before, the most terrified people are the psychopaths. And so what are they terrified of? They're terrified of facing negativity. Why? Because deep in their own being, they were the ones who originally faced it. If there was ever an issue in creation, the ones who originally faced it without any help, without any hope, without anything in creation ever knowing there was an issue, because denial is probably cosmic in nature, for it to be human in nature, as above, so below. So maybe God is evolving through that too. God in unity has no experience of acceptance or denial. It just is. However, God in diversity is evolving toward, you create in order to learn what you're creating and what it is. It's not all a given a priori. Evolution is self-discovery, and awareness is a process of self-discovery in time. However, beyond time, all of these things coexist, but they're not apparent at the same time.
time.
Let's put it that way. I mean, we use the same word for different time duration, time with temporal references. You know, there's past, present, future. All of these things are different nuances of the same thing, maybe.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. Did you listen to the current video that I had that's up right now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, the guy that I read from pointed out that Jay Essex. You remember me mentioning that he liked me and Jay Essex. Well, I had never heard of Jay Essex. I listened to a whole bunch of his videos yesterday, and one of the things he believes is that the God that has been in control of everything is now dead, and most of the angels or the spirit realm has been basically killed, and there's a whole new creation that's now beginning to run the show. Of course,
What?
This is. I mean, I'm trying to get my mind around some of his ideas.
Does he explain from what? What's the cause of that creation?
Well, I mean that the creation, that the God was malevolent. The original God, the God
Who's
of
the other God? I mean, where'd he come from? Was he off on vacation and now finally came back and said, "Oh, what's happened"?
Well, I don't know. He's an old guy with bib overalls and interesting. And he films his videos outdoors by the Chattahoochee River, which could be Georgia, Alabama, or Florida. And he's an interesting character. His videos are shorter than mine for the most part. Some of them are only like 4 or 5 minutes long.
I might have seen it.
I had never discovered him before, but he has some interesting ideas. I can't say that I agree with everything that I've heard so far, but I did listen to like 7 or 8 of his videos yesterday.
Well, that issue of the God of creation being dead and the other God, you know, when you address things at a spiritual level, death is not the same as it is on the physical level. Death, rebirth, transformation. I would say, you know, there is evolution and there were elements that were malevolent in this so-called creator. I believe it's part and parcel of establishing a diverse reality where the creator is in all things instead of a single unity. And so there needs to be distinction between things and separation. And separation originally is nothingness, but nothingness really, you know, is negation. When you have the absolute affirmation that is, you know, super love, super meaning, everything, perfection, but no distinction, what else is there? There is absolute negation. Both of these are God. You know, I mean, if God is all that is, then God is also all that is not. So, you know, depending on how. So what we call God is the God that basically affirms creation. But for creation to exist, you actually need negation to come in and play a role. And that requires a whole set of balancing because love has no clue how to do that. Love does not negate. So, of course, there's going to be a process. Even without time, you're going to have a mix-up of negation and affirmation. So all of us have self-negation in us. And it accumulates through a complex process of trying to purge it within some locales more than others. But our job, in my opinion, is to access that negation and redefine our relationship with it. It is not bad in and of itself. It's simply the negation that says creation is bad simply needs to go back to where it came from, which is just its own sleep, saying no. You know, just like you have God is love, the source exists. You know, just because things are created doesn't mean God died and his body became creation. That source exists in all of us and in everything. However, you cannot have creation if it's just that source. It doesn't just, you know, take love and sculpt it into different things. You need polarity. Polarity means love and no love. So no love is necessary for creation because no love simply means repulsion. Repulsion and attraction. All of these things have to happen, but creation, in my honest opinion, my metaphysics of it, is that creation is incomplete. The seventh day came, God took a rest and said, okay, now it's my turn to awaken within all you guys and see what you guys do. You know, and in order for that to happen, I have to pretend not to intervene or intervene less and less and less until you guys can reach the leap where you can actually stand as if there is no God. So you can find me within, and only within. And then you will experience what it means to be divine. However, if I keep intervening and making sure everything goes well, that isn't going to happen. Plain and simple. You know, otherwise it would be forced to happen, because the presence of divinity is so powerful, the presence of love and affirmation, that everything says, okay, you know, I'm so much less negation and affirmation will just polarize again. All of these things are how I see it. But when you listen to somebody's viewpoint, you need to understand that, well, there may be a motivation behind that viewpoint. It's not just like a scientific, you know, the world is like this, okay? Basically, it's like, people, don't worry. The God that's screwing us over, or whatever we think is screwing us over, is now dead. And all of this mess we're perceiving is just the rubble. We're trying to clear through the rubble. So don't worry about it. You know, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, this guy even puts a timeline on it. He says that we're really going to start noticing the changes by the end of next year, 2015, and 2016 will be much better for all of us. Which,
well, again, with spiritual insight, time gets contracted a lot. You know, events get contracted. You see the outcome, which is overwhelmingly powerful. So the in-between nuances get sidelined. We don't know when it's going to take. He would like it to see that, because to his mind, in the way that he's connecting with this certainty, the certain intuition, in my honest opinion again, that things are getting better, you know, it should be happening. But then again, the psychopaths do the same thing. I mean, well, by the time 1995 rolls along, we'll all be chip implanted. That was what they used to say. By the time 2000 rolls along, we'll be new world government, electronic money. Then they put 2005, 2010. Now they're saying 2027 from what I heard.
yeah, some people, yeah.
Well, this was on Greek TV by analysts speaking for the bankers. You know,
Oh, okay.
So this is like a
reliable source.
So-called, yeah, whatever. Yeah. But the point is that there is, think about it in terms of the timelines again. Timeline 1 and timeline 2. We're right on the boundary. And we veer off into timeline 2, not because we're being sucked in by the evil ones, but because timeline 2 has a lot of resource material, shall we say, that has been denied. So if there is a probable Earth that's suffering, let's put it in terms of Bashar. Oh, you know, the probable Earth is suffering, and then, but you want to go to the paradise Earth that's already there. So all you have to do is just leave and visualize the good stuff. And I'm saying, look, man, you know, you are assuming these Earths are all in their little tiny compartments, like you know, those rats they have on the little rat races, you know, or horses in the horse race. Everybody's on its own track. And it's like, why would it be that way? You know, what's the point? If reality is interconnected, then in any transformation, you have a systemic bleed-through. You have a horizontal level interaction. So there's no such thing as saying, well, hell is over there and heaven is over there. Or our paradise is over here and whoever wants to suffer can just go to hell. Hell is not an option, in my honest opinion. It is a temporary transition, and it is the afterimage of an incomplete creation, in my honest opinion. When you enter a house that is only 4 posts in the middle of a fucking snowstorm, your house is incomplete. It's not evil, you know, but you're going to get sick and die because you're not ready to inhabit the house. You have to build it, you know. However, you are stuck in the elements to do so. The situation is dire because we're personally involved with it, as we should be. So in my honest opinion, that part of us that is in timeline 1, in paradise, is not manifest. The resources to manifest that reality are not there. It's a dream. It's an experience, but it's a dream. It's not an illusion. We are the fulcrum of reality. We are the embodiments of where the one timeline should be. So why are we focused on the crap? Well, it's the opposite of what Bashar says. You got to go in toward hell and fish into hell to pull out the little nuggets that have been denied there, that have been corrupted, the parts of yourself, the parts of humanity, all of the shit that we hate to face and sometimes will come at us as black magic, as somebody's malignant intent. Now, what's malignant intent? It denies your existence. It's practically divine because it has the power to kill you, and immense power, but just like God's love has immense power. We're almost equal in that sense, but they're not conflicting. In fact, what the job of the human is to do is to put denial in its proper place, to say, I choose to live, but I'm going to extract the emotions from this feeling of hatred. I'm going to extract my memories of feeling bad that are connected through my DNA to all my ancestors whose instincts have been denied. Everything that's been denied is my responsibility to heal. And of course, we're going to hit the brink of thinking that we're not strong enough. Some people think that as you move through this, the world is going to self-correct. I don't know. The point is that if we truly desire to make a difference outwardly, we will be inspired to do so. Now, what I really wanted to talk today, I wanted this to just be an introduction, but I'd like to give a few insights into some things practically, like the thing with the emotions, how to really get into fear. And most people, including myself, don't do this consciously, even all the time, because think of your worst experience of depression, negation, terror. You know, those are the zones, and you're not going to walk into them consciously. There's too many defense mechanisms, and the system doesn't want you to do it unless you are powerless. And because these feelings are reflections of being powerless, in my opinion, the psychopaths represent fragments of ultimate powerlessness. That's why they seek ultimate power. Loving them will not work because they are saturated with negation. Embodying them is, in my opinion, what will work, which is something that saints do not do. That's why I was talking about saints being the opposite pole of the psychopaths that some people didn't like. As loving as saints be, they are affirmation, and that is that, and I honor that. But they cannot handle negation. Even churches and shamans and everybody, they do exorcisms. They don't take the thing in and transform it. Nobody can at this point, unless the earth is all going through it at the same time so that everybody can be redeemed. It cannot happen. You would just be overwhelmed by the wave. Now, the key to this is what I would call the energy body. I have talked about discernment before, and I have talked about, that we need it, but how do we cultivate it? We think discernment is something mental, and it seems that way. Actually, I've been looking a lot through doing my own transformation stuff and looking over some yoga stuff, trying to translate it in a more understandable way. And all of these traditions, the alchemies, everything, focus on the transformation of the energy body. The energy body has 3 levels. It's the substantial level. I'm not going to use fancy terms here. This is the level that people call prana or ki or chi, the level of life force that we feel, what sustains us, what we can feel in other people, around us, everything. The second level, which is the same energy body, is the level of mind and emotions. This is what we consider more abstract and whatever, because it's disconnected from the substantial energy body. It's really one the same, and instinctively so. Instinctively, we would function with our minds at an energy level, and thus we would be far more psychic. Maybe not psychic in the conventional sense, because those are like adaptations after our instincts have been repressed. But when your true instincts awaken, your true human DNA, that's what they say, awaken your DNA as it used to be. Well, yeah, what was it before? Instinctive, natural. So being instinctive means having an energy body, a circulatory dynamic, so-called chi, prana, whatever, at a very dense level, almost indistinguishable from the physical, to the point that the physical heals and conforms to it, but also sustains it and grounds it and keeps it in one place, so to speak, embodied. But the processing ability of the energy body is like a supercomputer. Even David Icke talks about something, our biocomputer, blah, blah, blah. But, and the physical body sustains it, contracts it, holds it, is the memory system of it, the formative dynamic. But the energy itself is like a hologram. This hologram is like a supercomputer. Our brain, within the cerebral spinal fluid and around it, even on the inside, in that little space under the cranium, has an electromagnetic field. This electromagnetic field is holographic in nature and sustains the brunt of cognitive dynamics, whereas the actual cellular structure is the switching mechanism of it. It's actually the processing at a level of manifestly correlating with the senses and the outer world and creating the outer world and everything. But the actual repository of processing is the energy body. And it actually permeates. But most of ours is compartmentalized due to tensions, due to conditioning, where we have one chakra, so to speak, being separate from another chakra and not interacting. So the idea is, and emotions and thoughts, these are segregated as well. And this is the processing potential, originally the processing potential of the energy body. But if you don't feel the substance of your thoughts and feel the substance of your emotions instead of simply reacting to it, and instead you have a vague sense of sensation or a strong sense of sensation that you call feeling, that many people say is different from emotions. Well, it's the same continuum. Your emotions become far more empowered and healthier and psychically viable and able to change the world if they are connected to the energy feeling sense, and the two mix and merge. The same thing with your thoughts. This is, another way of describing and interpreting what has been known throughout the ages. There is a third level of the energy body, and this level is what the matrix represses the most. This is the perceptive level of the energy body. Indian mystics call it the level of wisdom, the wisdom body, or the complete wisdom body. Prajnana, or something. Prognosis, or complete gnosis. This body is basically like a three-dimensional membrane, if you will, a multi-dimensional membrane. It is the true discerning perception of the energy body beyond the processing level. This perception occurs, transmits to the processing level, that turns it into thoughts and feelings and impressions and perceptions, and transmits to the substantial level that's connected to the physical body. You can actually have psychic clairvoyance, this, that, and the other. The wisdom body, well, what kind of wisdom? What do you mean? Well, the wisdom body is essentially connected to the deeper layer called the causal body. This is where we get our pathway into divinity. The causal body is basically not supposed to have programs in it. You're supposed to figure things out in terms of what the wisdom body what's the wisdom body tell you? It connects to other things in manifestation. And it reminds you that they're all divine. That's the wisdom part. Innately, without you having to have a religion or analyze it, just by a sense of, in Lakesh, as they say, in the Mayan, New Age, whatever, a sense, and not ritualized, and not we are one, like Siamese twins grafted together. It's a sense of kinship, of natural instinctive kinship, not just with other humans, but with all things. See, mystics awaken that. But at the same time, as they do so, they uproot the lower aspects of the energy body from their physical ties because they can't handle all the underworld stuff. And so they have to clean the causal body, which holds all the real imprints. And I'm talking transpersonal imprint. I'm talking about the sins of angels, God, all of these things, the spirit world, everything, and everything that happened to our ancestors, things that transcend time. All of these are in the so-called causal frame. But what is the nature of the causal frame beyond the energy body? It is bliss. That's bliss. And I'm not talking about peace. I'm talking about a well-being that you can heal somebody with. That's what the wisdom body does. It opens up to the causal body that's cleansed of imprints, of conditioning, which basically is one big yes. Okay? And this one big yes doesn't have to deal with negation because the physical level is already formed. You already have the mold. The mold was there with all the negation and the separation, and we've created the laws of the universe and all of this. And so we don't need denial anymore. But the residues are still there and they need to be extracted. It's like alchemy. In alchemy, you undergo this process and the super gold pops up, the philosopher's stone, but you got all this crap floating on the surface that you don't need. This is not denial. This isn't even something substantial. This is basically beyond the program. Because if you take it out of yourself, if you take information out of a medium, if you take the words written in pencil off of the sheet of paper, what happens? Well, you erase. You don't take the words and put them somewhere else. You don't copy. If you delete something from a computer, the information is gone. Nothing changes substantially. You still got the electrons, you still got the operating system, you still got everything. See, this is a matter of deprogramming in a very, very deep sense, but at a level of causality where you don't have to understand about our kinds of stuff. All you have to do is use your instinctive energy body. That's the guy that does this. The physical body is the one that sustains it, localized, because it's beyond time and space in its true nature. So we need to be physical for this. It needs to be localized because it is the divine, the non-temporal, the non-spatial, the non-dimensional or trans-dimensional reaching out through us in dimensions, and we're clearing the debris along the way. And this guy that you mentioned that said, well, the old God is dead, the new God is coming, may be, in my opinion, an intuitive recognition that much is being cleared along the way. Of course, again, as we said, if you reach those levels of perception, your wisdom body, or the little cloud openings in it, translated into temporal terms, might be distorted. You don't know how long it's going to take. And it doesn't matter. Because often when we say, don't worry, it's going to take 6 months or a year, we might be just catering to our sense of, oh, I better tell these guys that it's going to take 6 months or a year, or they're all going to lose hope. Instead of saying, look, you need to develop your confidence to the point that whatever it takes, I don't care, I'm just, let it be open-ended. My wisdom body will tell me when the psychopath is trying to psychically or whatever interfere with the process, and I will deal with that because I'm extracting and reclaiming, accepting what's me, which is not just love and light, but the essence that hurts and the essence that's afraid. But what is hurting the essence? That is a result of something that we may need time to understand. So I would say you don't need to understand everything for your instincts to be working properly. But the wisdom body is the body of discernment. And the causal body's true nature is bliss or well-being, and you're not going to feel ecstasy because it needs to come in slowly, because if you go too fast, you're going to crack. And you say, well, what about all the people? What about all the things that need to be transformed? Oh, see, that's the thing. There are many people, all of us, who want to change things. So you listen to one person at a time, and you say, well, that person represents something. They give you something. Put it there. Not compartmentalize, but put it there. And then you see what everybody else is saying. And now see what dots you can connect. Don't expect everything to come from one person. And I would recommend no one person try to say, we have to do this to solve it all. No, this is a process we're
That's what the ambassador always says. People want to be the special one or the unique one, that I have the message that's going to liberate the world.
And it's a fallacy because, look, man, you're blessed by the fact that all you have to do is your part, which is what you can do. And then the gift of liberation is going to come from everybody else's part. That's going to be like a gift, like a blessing, like saying, okay, I just did my little part, and now it happened, but maybe my part is harder than I thought. I mean, it's more than...
Mine is.
Exactly. But at the same time, if you really hone it in a way that works for you, where you backtrack to the point where it begins, where something, like I had said before, your personal life works for you. You say it, so how to transfer that to the rest? What step needs to be taken to transfer this power of making things work? I know you take it for granted, but many people can't even do that. And somehow for you it works because your faith applied in your personal zone works. Now, how to get everybody else on the same page is another story. That may be the challenge. Libras would have that challenge, for example. So, don't ask out of one person the total solution, but keep it in mind and say, look, my thing is to empower you as an individual, not to empower you, but to share my experience so you can have your own insights of empowerment. Your wisdom body is energy like an eyeball, like an eardrum or a nerve. It's like a psychic nerve. It doesn't make thoughts and doesn't create stories and it doesn't emote. However, it draws in and it understands. And that understanding is then translated. There are several levels of purification that are needed. And I'm not giving a list here, but I'm giving you an idea, a general sense, and maybe some of you can be inspired to take it further in your own way. Because we are students of ourselves, students of the divine, students of psychopaths, students of everything. We are students, and we are not prisoners only. We are locked in this classroom, so to speak, that is not a classroom. It's a torture chamber until we begin truly becoming as resourceful as we can be, reclaiming our instincts instead of misrepresenting them, instead of thinking that they're the cause and all of this, or idolizing what we think of our instincts, which is really just playing another program in the hands of the Matrix. So there's a lot we need to understand about ourselves, and that doesn't mean we're escaping. We can apply this as we go. So I know some people are going to say, well, what about mass protests and all of this? Look, whoever has the courage to master their energy body in a way that will guarantee the protection of a group of people who are moving to challenge the system can do that. Once you reach the level where you know, and you will know, that your energy field is such that nothing can change the timeline course that you're on, you can proceed. You don't need to confront. Sometimes that means a mass event may happen before you move to protest, or something may happen. Things will move, but you will feel, and if you have to say, but I want to move now, well, then pretend you're moving, visualize it. But you have to go through the fears, you have to go through the rages, all of these things to collect the resources to activate your potential. Your resources are very likely within the very negativity that scares the crap out of you. And in fact, the very feeling of being scared is negativity saying hello. That's what I wanted to say today. I'm sorry if we went over, but
no, you're under 40 minutes.
Okay, it's a complex issue as usual, and I wanted to simplify this idea of the energy body. The energy body is not separate from the physical. These are compartments of functionality. This is like saying, okay, you got a car, you don't take the steering wheel out, run with it, and pretend it's going to take you somewhere. We can't get out of our bodies, so to speak. They're not just our bodies, they're us. If you really get into your identity, the energy body is you. Some people say, no, I am the core divine. Well, the rest is just trash. So the world is an illusion to them. Okay, you're saying you don't really exist as an individual, so go to the core, and we'll see you when we get there. But we'll see you as truly realized physical beings, energy beings, and everything. And then they might want to say, well, I remember being a physical being once, things are cool, let me incarnate now that I can be loved, that I don't have to face anything. And that's good. Because from a certain point on, as we face and integrate, it will all become instinctive. Psychic abilities, divine powers, everything, and natural. And we won't have, and then we will see a society emerge from these things. Because in ancient times, there were a few nobody selected them, but a few individuals fired up and became benefactors of humanity. They taught agriculture, they taught metallurgy, they taught many, many things, healing. These people were sometimes revered as gods, sometimes called fallen ones, fallen angels, because they dared teach the peasants how to brush their teeth, So, however, if this happened once, it can happen again. The psychopaths know it is bound to happen. They are trying to repress it. They are willing to destroy the world itself so it doesn't happen because they feel they are on the other end of the stick. And we have to reclaim what they're afraid of, bit by bit, so they're left as they are, little frightened children, probably even not even remembering what they did before.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll go back to source as well and come back as new incarnations. I don't know. But for us, we need to start where we are. It's 8:33. That's what I wanted to say today.
Thank you, Aristo. Namaste.